I just want to also point out in my journal I wrote movie Wakanda.
That was the highlight of her week.
Wow, I really liked Wakanda, obviously. Great movie.
Wakanda. Oh, man. Yep. So
you
that's
need to
my
drink more
life.
of your beer. So we went live on Instagram right before the recording of this podcast, and we showed them our little room that we set up, and I don't think I've talked about it on the podcast yet. So
this is the first time we're recording with this setup.
Yeah, we're hoping that the sound is better. Basically, I spent all weekend trying to soundproof my room because my sound engineer, Audrey, says that my room was too empty and like it echoed a lot.
There's just a little echo in the first 4 episodes.
Which I totally get because I actually don't like anything on my walls. I paint a design into it and I have maybe like art like that I've painted, so it's not like real art.
Yes, it is. It's so cute.
But other than that, I really don't have anything on my walls. So I went to the Ark in effort to soundproof my entire room, which I've been finding out is a multi-purpose room. I really need a bigger house because this room is the room the cats poop in. It's the room I work in. Like, it's my office. It's my piano room. It's my exercise room. It's my makeup room. It's my art gallery. It's my book. Like, it's my library. And now it's our podcast station.
And it still looks great.
I hate messes. So
it's not messy at all.
I wanted to make it so we had soundproof, but I also didn't want to fuck up my other rooms, you know? So I went to the Ark and 50% days on Saturdays.
Yes.
I was like the first one at the Ark. I like had to wait in the parking lot before they opened. I was so adamant about soundproofing.
Wow. I
was doing my research. I was like, I need this kind of foam. I need maybe these thick of blankets. I was ready. First location had nothing. I actually bought nothing at the Ark that day.
Oh.
Then I had to go to the next location and went inside. Fucking jackpot. I got, right here, we got a blanket that is so cute. It's a twin baby blue blanket.
I want to take it home with me.
No, it's part of our fucking podcast, Raj. And then I got this adorable sleeping bag that is like cloth on the inside. I think it's actually cloth on the outside too, but it's cute little rocket ships. Anyway, I'm going on way too long about what I bought. So I bought all this shit essentially. And now I was like obligated to throw it on my walls. So when you talk, you know, the sound would be absorbed into the blankets instead of bouncing off the walls. But I just said I don't like shit on my walls, you know? So Chris and I go to Lowe's and it was seriously so hard to decide how to do this because we're thinking like, yeah, let's just have like these hooks hang from the ceiling and we can like move them over like a curtain. So, you know, when the podcast is over, I can just, move it aside real quick. That turned out, it was like probably $60 per wall.
Oh, wow.
And like, I love you.
That's not that much.
But like, it's not worth that much.
No.
So, we ultimately ended up with these long ass pieces of wood that we did not plan. We actually did plan to like nail the blankets to and then hang from the ceilings. Mm-hmm. But it totally worked out. These pieces of wood are as long floor to ceiling as I needed them to be. So I just like fucking jam them in.
Yeah, they're just standalone blankets.
Yeah, they're standing up. I stapled the blankets to the wood, and it's just
like I'm pretty much just talking into a blanket right now. And it's
I know.
awesome.
Well, like looking forward, I'm staring at the baby blue blanket.
Right.
But I was really happy. I'm gonna ruin my nice popcorn ceiling. It's just all like jammed in there. I don't know how else to put it. I guess I'll post it on fucking Instagram.
It looks great.
Yeah, I threw up some Christmas lights. Great. We got a nice dry erase board and the mini fridge that Audrey brought over. The mini fridge. So
it's
now
like a whole new room.
Yeah, it's like totally a different vibe.
And she put up little string lights.
It's so cute. Except we can't see them.
We can't see them because the blanket's there, but they're still there.
Yeah,
and it's great.
So that was my Ark adventure. I think that's all I bought. Oh, I bought a file cabinet too, but who cares?
Yeah, whatever. Who cares about the file cabinet?
Anywho,
so I want to talk about this book.
Me too. Let's go to our synonyms page. Got it. We seriously have so much to talk about this book, and this is we're talking about it a little earlier than usual. But there is just so much to say about this book. And honestly, like, we have posted on Insta that says we don't spoil books. And just full disclosure, I'm worried.
No, I think we'll do fine.
I'm going to try my best to not spoil this. Hopefully you've read it. I'm just going to try so hard not to spoil it. But it's such a good book. You have to read it. Seriously, just, like, stop this podcast and go read it. It's so good. And then come back and listen.
Right. It's a long book, so
it is a long book. You can read it quickly. It's a page turner.
It is a page turner, for sure.
Do you want to read the synopsis? So we're going to read directly the synopsis from the publisher. So
right. So this isn't going to give you any spoilers. It's just, if you don't like reading the back cover of a book, I don't like doing that.
I don't like that either.
Yeah. So if you don't, maybe fast forward a minute.
I got mine from Kristin Hannah's website.
Oh, okay.
She says it's stories of two sisters separated by years and experience, by ideals, passion, and circumstance, each embarking on their own dangerous path towards survival, love, freedom, etc. in the German-occupied / war-torn France. It celebrates the resilience of the human spirit and the durability of women. So that's what it's about. And so now you know the main characters, Vianne and Isabel. They're basically just two sisters. Very different. Vianne has kids. She's got a husband going to the war. It's World War II. Nazis invade France. Mm-hmm. Basically, she's just staying the course. Like, don't make any noise. Just be receptive of what they want us to do. Meanwhile, Isabel's like, we need to fight. Mm-hmm. And so that's the whole beginning of the book is them kind of butting heads against their own beliefs in that. And it's also, throughout the book, you see how they each change and grow up, essentially. And they have to grow up in this terrible situation.
Right. And for those of you that don't really like war stories, whether they be fiction or nonfiction, this book is a great gateway, I think.
Totally agree.
For... you learn about the war, which is cool, but you also get that story of passion. So.
Yeah. My sister read this first, and she said that she's read so many war stories, and this one's so different because you don't always hear about the women. Fighting in the war, and obviously, the men go off and fight, and it's totally respectable and. It's valid, like there's so much that they go through, but there's this other side, and this kind of talks about that other side,
right?
Of how the women have to survive,
right?
While their husbands are gone. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they don't have any scenes in this book on the war front at all.
No, it's just how the war affects these women.
I mean, unless you're looking at, I guess Germany's invasion into France. But there wasn't a whole lot of...
Yeah, it wasn't...
There wasn't any battles in this book. So if you're... I personally don't like war stories because I'm not a big battle, explosion, guns. Like, I'm not... My husband loves that kind of stuff. When we go and pick a movie, he's all... as many explosions as possible. And I'm like, I need the lovey-gushy.
This had a nice balance of action and the cheesy romantic. But when I say that, again, I'm hoping I'm not turning people off on this because, I mean, there's obviously a huge theme of love and how you would handle certain situations, but it's not a love story.
It's not a love story in the sense of male-female romance.
Yeah.
It's more of how love affects you as an individual, whether it be a romantic love or just your love for your family and the people that you depend on as far as your friends, and how that really affects you getting through something as tough as World War II.
How it affects your daily decisions on handling literally the Nazi living in your house.
Yes.
Or how you handle, how you handle the resistance that you're trying to form.
Right.
I want to relate my beer to it. Is it too early?
No, I think we can definitely talk about that because A, we don't want to give away a lot of stuff, but B, that can maybe be an in on
the story,
the heart of the book. So I'll do my beer first. Mine is, just as a reminder, mine is 0 to 60 by Two Roads. And I mainly picked this beer for the brewery's sake, not necessarily the actual beer itself. I loved the brewery name. Is that okay?
That's totally okay.
And then I just picked the beer that had the least amount of ABV. Which was this one. All of them were 4-packs, and they were like 12%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were they all IPAs?
They have some serious beer. So I highly recommend checking them out if you have a night to yourself where you're not driving, which I do not. So anyways, so this beer, the reason I picked Two Roads is because, well, they actually say it on their box, which is really cool. I'm just going to read it. And they say, thank you for taking the road less traveled. And when there are many times in your life when you are going through the obstacles of life and you have the option to go 2 different directions. And typically those decisions are the ones where you look back 5 years later and, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or 5 years later, you look back and you're like, man, if I had done this instead of this, how drastically different would my life be? That's insane, kind of stuff. And so the brewery name is Two Roads, and this book follows 2 women that are in World War II and the real struggles that women in World War II faced every single day. So one was a mother who had to fight for her rations and had to feed her 2 kids and had to do this without her husband and try to figure out how to keep these kids alive in the many years of her husband being gone. And then the other one is her younger sister who is like, I can't sit here and do nothing while people are dying out there. I can't watch this. So she gets up and she leaves and goes and fights.
Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't do it with like guns or anything, but she does it in her own way. And when you read the book, you'll figure all that out.
Nice avoidance of a spoiler.
We made a promise. I can't spoil. So I just love how she built the characters and took the time on each of them.
Yes.
And by the end of the book, you felt like you knew both as your own sisters.
Yes, totally.
There were some chapters where I was like, do I have to read this? Like, I get it. And I read through it and I was like, okay, I understand why she did that. But
it's basically, in my opinion of interpreting your beer, you have to follow the road that is best for you. And that might look different than literally your sisters.
Right.
When reading this book, you realize obviously it's gonna be about Isabel and Vianne,
sure,
and how they respond to the war in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's hard as a reader because you're trying to wonder, well, would I do what Isabel would be doing,
mm-hmm.
or would I just stick with my family and do what Vianne's doing?
Right.
So it's ultimately like the one sister thinks she's doing the right thing and she thinks the other one's not. But ultimately it's like what's right and wrong isn't black and white.
I think that Kristin Hannah portrayed women of World War II in a beautiful way that most of stop laughing at me. She's laughing because she thinks I'm reading off the
I got you.
The stupid synonym list that I pulled up for you.
Hey.
Everyone knows the word beautiful.
Exactly. That's why you need a different word for it.
Gorgeous.
She portrays women in a gorgeous way.
A gorgeous way. No, but honestly, like, I don't want to dumb this down. I think that the way that she portrays women in World War II is something that no author has touched on. And I think that when people think of World War II, they think of the soldiers and how it was difficult for them and how when they come home, they have to pick the pieces up and figure it out. And I think that for the women's side of things, it was so difficult for them